Gunshots exploded the moment Vera slid into the back seat. The man beside her didn't flinch, just grabbed her wrist and said, "Stay down if you want to survive." Why would a mafia boss risk everything for a woman he just met? Vera Quinn got into the wrong car at 11:52 p.m. on Christmas Eve. By midnight, she'd be bleeding. By dawn, she belonged to him, ***. But she didn't know any of that yet. Right now, she was standing on a snow-dusted Brooklyn sidewalk in ruined stockings and a coat too thin for December, watching her phone battery die. 3%. 2%. The screen flickered once, then went black. "Perfect," she muttered, shoving the dead phone into her pocket. "Merry Christmas to me." It wasn't the cold that made her hate Christmas. It wasn't even the relentless carols leaking from every storefront or the couples wrapped around each other under every streetlight. It was the way the whole world seemed to pair off on nights like this, leaving her standing alone on frozen corners, a ghost no one bothered to see. Just another Christmas Eve proving what she already knew: some people were meant to be found, and some people were meant to slip through the cracks. The restaurant shift had been brutal. 10 hours on her feet, blistered heels stabbing with every step, carrying trays for families who didn't look at her face when they ordered. She'd smiled through it all. Smiling was required, but the moment her manager dismissed her, she'd grabbed her coat and fled into the night. The cold slapped her immediately. New York in December was beautiful if you had somewhere warm to go. Vera had a studio apartment with heat that worked half the time and a fridge containing yogurt she was pretty sure had expired. She stood under the broken streetlight, breath misting in the air, and tried to remember if she'd confirmed the rideshare before her phone died. She thought she had. She hoped she had. Headlights cut through the falling snow. A black sedan pulled to the curb, sleek and expensive, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. Relief flooded through her numb body. She didn't check the license plate. Her fingers were too cold to fumble with her phone, and she just wanted to collapse into a warm seat and forget this night existed. Vera grabbed the handle and threw herself inside. "Oh, thank God," she breathed, sinking into leather that smelled like money and something darker: gunmetal, cologne, danger she was too exhausted to recognize. "Williamsburg, please. I'm the one who ordered. My phone died, but the ride went through. Can you crank the heat? I can't feel my toes." Silence. Not the comfortable silence of a driver ignoring small talk. The kind of silence that had weight. Texture. Teeth. A voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Who are you?" Vera's eyes snapped open. The man in the driver's seat had turned to face her, and everything inside her went very, very still. Ice green eyes locked onto hers, cold, calculating, the kind of eyes that saw through skin and bone straight down to the parts of yourself you tried to hide. Sharp jaw. Dark hair slicked back with precision. A face that could have been carved from marble, beautiful in the way a weapon is beautiful. He wasn't asking out of confusion. He was deciding what to do with her. Her voice came out small, uncertain. I'm the one who called the rideshare. You're supposed to take me to Williamsburg." His expression didn't change. His gaze flicked to the rearview mirror, and something shifted in his face, something that made her stomach drop. The sedan lurched forward so violently her head cracked against the headrest. "Hey!" Vera grabbed the seat, indignation flooding through her shock. "What are you doing?" "I said Williamsburg, not." Another car pulled alongside them. Black. Sleek. Too close. The window rolled down. Vera saw the gun before her brain could process what it meant. A sound escaped her throat, half gasp, half whimper. Is that, oh my God, is that? A hand shot back, iron fingers tangling in her hair, and shoved her face down toward the floor. Down. One word. Not a request. Not even a command. A fact. The first bullet shattered the rear window. Vera screamed, glass raining down like frozen stars, sharp edges biting into her coat. She pressed her face into the carpet, hands over her head, as the world exploded around her. More shots. Asterisk crack. Crack. Crack, asterisk. The man, the driver, the stranger, the not her rideshare. Spoke in rapid, fluid Italian, his voice completely calm, as if being hunted through the streets of Brooklyn was just another Tuesday night. Asterisk svolta a sinistra. Tagliali fuori al ponte, asterisk. Let me out. Vera screamed into the carpet. Stop the car. Let me. No. One word. Flat. Final. The chase tore through icy streets. Sharp turns threw her against the door. Bullets pinged off metal. She heard sirens in the distance, then they faded, swallowed by the city's indifference. When the car finally stopped, the silence was deafening. Vera stayed face down, trembling, glass glittering in her hair. Up. She didn't move. A hand gripped her arm, not rough, but unbreakable, and pulled her upright. Through the shattered window, snow drifted down onto something impossible, a high-rise building wrapped in red and gold Christmas lights, the kind of place that didn't exist in her world. The man was already out of the car, moving around to her door with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. When he opened it, his expression was stone. Vera pressed back against the seat, her voice shaking. I'm not going anywhere with you. His hand closed around her elbow. The pressure wasn't painful, but it promised pain if she resisted. He pulled her out into the snow. Let go. She tried to yank free, but it was like pulling against a steel cable. I said, let go. His voice was flat, cold, eyes fixed on the entrance ahead. Wrong car. Those men saw your face. Then tell them it was a mistake. Won't matter. Still walking. They saw you in my car. That's enough. Her blood turned to ice. Enough for what? His jaw tightened, the first crack in that perfect control. They think you're mine. They'll use you to get to me. Or kill you to send a message. Then tell them I'm not. Stop talking. The words cut like a knife. They were inside now, a private elevator with mirrors and marble. Vera caught her reflection, wild-eyed, glass in her hair, mascara smeared. She looked like a victim. She looked like prey. The man pressed a button. The top floor. Of course. You can't just kidnap me, she whispered. He didn't look at her. I just did. I'll scream. Go ahead. The elevator doors opened onto a penthouse suite that belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Christmas lights twinkling across Manhattan like fallen stars. He guided her inside with that same unbreakable grip, then released her. She stumbled back, putting the leather couch between them. For the first time, she got a good look at him in the light. Tailored black suit. No tie. The top button undone, revealing a throat that looked like it had never known vulnerability. Dark hair still perfectly in place despite the chaos. And those eyes. God, those eyes, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. He looked like every warning her mother never gave her. He looked like Christmas Eve was about to get very, very complicated. "What's your name?" His voice was quieter now, but no less dangerous. Vera lifted her chin, trying to find courage she didn't feel. "What's yours?" A ghost of something, amusement? Respect, flickered across his face. Damien. Just the one name. Like that was supposed to mean something. "Vera," she said, because what did it matter now? He nodded once, as if confirming something he already knew. Then he pulled out his phone and spoke in that same cold, measured tone. "I found her." Vera's heart stopped. Damien's eyes never left her face as he continued. "Bring me everything you have on the Quinn family. Start with the father." He ended the call. Vera's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want from me?" Damien crossed the room in 3 strides and leaned down, one hand braced on the back of the couch, close enough that she could smell gunpowder and expensive cologne. His voice dropped to something almost intimate. "That depends on what your father took from me." The Mafia boss straightened, his question hanging in the air like a blade waiting to fall. "That depends on what your father took from me, asterisk." Vera opened her mouth to answer. To tell him she had no idea what he was talking about, that her father had been gone for 8 years, that she barely remembered his face, when the window exploded. Not shattered. Exploded. Glass erupted inward in a glittering wave as bullets tore through the penthouse. The Mafia boss moved before Vera could scream, his body slamming into hers, driving her down behind the couch as the air filled with the sound of destruction. "Stay down," he barked, already moving, phone to his ear. Asterisk abbiamo compagnia. Nordovest, tre territori. Movativ, asterisk. Vera pressed herself into the floor, hands over her head, as more gunfire ripped through the suite. She heard the Mafia boss's footsteps, fast and purposeful, heard a drawer slam open, heard the distinctive click of a gun being loaded. "How many?" he said into the phone, his voice utterly calm. More glass shattered. Vera screamed. Asterisk andiamo. Ora, asterisk. Strong hands grabbed her arms, hauling her up. The Mafia boss's face was inches from hers, those ice-green eyes burning with focus. "We're moving. Stay behind me. Don't stop. Don't look back." "I can't." "You can." He pulled her toward the private elevator, his body angled to shield hers. The doors opened immediately. He must have called it while she was still processing, and they were inside, descending, Vera's ears ringing from the gunfire. "They found you that fast?" Her voice cracked. "How did they?" "They've been watching." The Mafia boss checked his gun with practiced efficiency. "Waiting for me to bring someone home." The words hit her like ice water. "You knew this would happen." "I knew it was possible." "And you brought me here anyway?" His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something other than cold calculation. Something darker. "Leaving you on that street would have been worse." The elevator opened onto an underground garage. A different black sedan waited, engine running, driver's door open. The Mafia boss pushed Vera toward it. "Get in. Back seat. Now." She stumbled forward, her hands shaking as she grabbed the door handle. Behind them, she heard shouts, footsteps thundering down stairwells. The Mafia boss slid into the driver's seat and the car lurched forward before Vera could even close her door. She grabbed the handle, yanking it shut as they screamed toward the exit ramp. "Seatbelt," he said. She fumbled with it, hands trembling. "What about yours?" "I don't crash." They burst out onto the street, tires shrieking on ice-slicked pavement. Vera twisted to look back and immediately wished she hadn't. Two black SUVs peeled out of the garage behind them, windows already rolling down. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, they're down." The Mafia boss's hand shot back, pushing her head below the window line just as bullets punched through the rear windshield. Vera pressed herself into the footwell between the seats, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The Mafia boss spoke in rapid Italian, his voice steady despite the chaos. Asterisk incrocio di quinta e ventitresima. Tagliatelle. Voglio il guidatore vivo, asterisk. Another sharp turn threw Vera against the door. She bit back a cry, tasting blood where she'd bitten her tongue. "Who are you talking to?" she gasped. "My men." "Where are they?" "Everywhere." As if summoned by his words, another sedan appeared from a side street, cutting between them and their pursuers. Vera heard more gunfire, closer now, and the unmistakable crunch of metal hitting metal. The Mafia boss took a turn so sharp the car went up on two wheels for a breathless second. Vera's scream died in her throat as they slammed back down, the impact jarring her teeth. She risked lifting her head enough to see through the front windshield. They were flying through Manhattan now, weaving between late-night traffic, the city lights blurring into streams of red and gold. Christmas decorations lined every street, wreaths and garlands and glowing trees, a cheerful backdrop to the violence unfolding around her. Behind them, one of the pursuing SUVs tried to follow the Mafia boss's turn and lost control, spinning out into a parked delivery truck. The crash was deafening even through the closed windows. Asterisk uno giù asterisk, the Mafia boss said into his phone. Asterisk davi l'altro, asterisk. As if in answer, the second SUV appeared in the rearview mirror, closing fast. The Mafia boss's jaw tightened. He shifted gears, and the sedan surged forward with a growl that Vera felt in her bones. "Hold on. I am holding." He yanked the wheel hard left, cutting through an intersection against the light. Horns blared. A taxi swerved, missing them by inches. The SUV wasn't as lucky, or as skilled. Vera watched through the rear window as it clipped the taxi's bumper and spun, tires smoking. More of the Mafia boss's men appeared. She counted 3 more cars now, boxing in the crippled SUV. Men in dark suits emerged, guns drawn, and the Mafia boss looked away, satisfied. Asterisk portatello al magazzino asterisk, he said. Asterisk voglio rispost entro l'alba, asterisk. He ended the call and finally eased off the accelerator. The sudden reduction in speed made Vera's stomach lurch. She pulled herself up from the footwell, glass falling from her hair, and stared at him. Really stared at him. The Mafia boss drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually on the gearshift. Not a hair out of place. Not a bead of sweat on his forehead. Like he'd just taken a Sunday drive instead of leading a high-speed chase through Manhattan while being shot at. "You do this often?" Vera's voice came out hoarse. "Often enough." "Who are you?" He glanced at her in the rearview mirror, those ice-green eyes assessing. "You really don't know?" "I got into the wrong car. I thought you were my Uber." "How would I know?" Something shifted in his expression, calculation, decision, acceptance. Then consider tonight in education. They were in a different part of the city now. No more Brooklyn grit or Midtown chaos. Here, the buildings gleamed, the streets were cleaner, and every storefront window displayed things Vera couldn't afford even if she saved for a year. The Mafia boss turned onto a tree-lined street where every building looked like it belonged in a magazine. Christmas lights dripped from balconies like frozen gold. Doormen in red coats stood at attention outside lobbies warmed by gas fireplaces she could see through floor-to-ceiling windows. He pulled up to a hotel. No, not a hotel, the hotel. The kind of place Vera had walked past 1,000 times without ever imagining she'd set foot inside. The building rose 30 stories, wrapped in red and gold lights that made it glow against the night sky like a Christmas gift too expensive to unwrap. A tree stood in the circular drive, 15 feet tall and covered in ornaments that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The Mafia boss put the car in park and turned to face her fully for the first time since the shooting started. Blood had dried on his cheek, a thin line from a glass shard. It was the only sign anything had happened. "This is where you'll stay tonight," he said. Vera laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound. "I can't afford." "You're not paying." "I'm not your prisoner." His expression didn't change. "No. You're under my protection." "There's a difference." "I don't want your protection." Too late. He got out of the car and opened her door before she could protest further. The cold hit her immediately, snow falling in fat, lazy flakes that caught in her ruined hair. Vera climbed out on shaking legs and looked up at the glowing tower. Behind them, the shattered sedan ticked as it cooled, bullet holes puncturing metal, glass glittering on leather seats. In front of them, warmth and safety and luxury she'd never touched. The Mafia boss's hand settled on her lower back, not pushing, just guiding. Inside. Vera looked back at the street one last time, at the normal world she'd left behind, the world where she was invisible and alone but at least made sense. Then she looked at the man beside her, dangerous and calm and utterly terrifying in his competence. And she walked through the golden doors into his world. The lobby was all marble and gold, the kind of opulence that made Vera feel like she was tracking mud across a museum floor. A massive Christmas tree dominated the center, ornaments catching the light from crystal chandeliers overhead. Everything gleamed. Everything whispered money. The Mafia boss's hand remained at her lower back as he guided her past the front desk. The night clerk looked up, saw his face, and went very still. "Mr. Constantine," the clerk said, the name coming out like a prayer. "Your usual suite is ready." Constantine. So that was his last name. "Thank you, Marcus." The Mafia boss's voice carried effortless authority. "No visitors. No exceptions." "Of course, sir." They crossed to a private elevator tucked away from the main bank. The Mafia boss pressed his palm to a biometric scanner, and the doors opened immediately. Gold interior. Mirrors on 3 sides. Classical music playing softly through hidden speakers. Vera caught her reflection and flinched. She looked like a disaster. Mascara streaked, glass still caught in her tangled hair, her cheap coat torn at the shoulder. Next to the Mafia boss's pristine suit and unshakable composure, she looked like something he dragged in from the street. Which, technically, he had. The elevator began its ascent. "Top floor," he said, as if she couldn't see the single button. "Penthouse level." "Quieter. Harder to escape from," Vera added. His eyes met hers in the mirror. "That too." The doors opened directly into a suite that made the lobby look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Manhattan spread out below, the city glittering like it was trying to compete with the stars. A living area larger than her entire apartment flowed into a dining space, a full kitchen visible beyond. Everything was clean lines and expensive taste, leather, dark wood, abstract art that probably cost more than she'd make in a lifetime. And everywhere, the subtle touches of Christmas. Garland draped along the windows, a smaller tree in the corner with white lights, the scent of pine and cinnamon from candles that had probably been lit moments before their arrival. Someone had been expecting them. The Mafia boss closed the door, and Vera heard the definitive click of a lock engaging. She spun to face him. Unlock that. No. I'm not staying here. Yes, you are. He shrugged out of his jacket, draping it over a chair. The gun holster at his side was suddenly visible, black leather, deadly efficient. Vera's hands clenched into fists. You can't keep me prisoner. I'm keeping you alive. He moved to a bar cart, poured 2 fingers of something amber. There's a difference. Stop saying that. Her voice cracked. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to get shot at or kidnapped into some mafia. You got into my car. He took a sip, watching her over the rim of the glass. That made you my responsibility. I thought you were my Uber. Ignorance doesn't make you less of a target. Vera wanted to scream. Or cry. Or both. Instead, she crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Then call the police. Let them protect me. Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe, or pity. The police can't help you now. Why not? Because the men who saw you in my car don't care about badges or laws. He set down the glass. They care about leverage. And you, Vera Quinn, just became extremely valuable leverage. The way he said her full name made her skin prickle. How do you know my last name? I know a lot of things about you. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. You're exhausted. Hurt. In shock. We'll talk in the morning when you're thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearly right now, and I'm thinking you're insane if you expect me to just. A knock at the door interrupted her. The Mafia boss opened it to reveal a woman in hotel uniform carrying bags from stores Vera recognized from window shopping, the kind of places where a single shirt cost more than her weekly grocery budget. Thank you, Irina, he said, taking the bags. The woman nodded, didn't even glance at Vera, and disappeared back toward the elevator. He set the bags on the couch. Clothes. Your size. There's a bathroom through there. He gestured to a hallway. Clean yourself up. I'll order food. Vera stared at him. You had someone buy me clothes? When? We just got here. I made the call in the elevator. How did you know my size? His eyes traveled over her once. Clinical, assessing, not sexual but somehow more unsettling for it. I'm observant. Heat flooded her cheeks, whether from anger or embarrassment she couldn't tell. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's practicality. He was already moving to the kitchen, pulling out his phone again. You can't stay in torn, bloody clothes. Unless you prefer to. She didn't have an answer for that. The Mafia boss spoke into his phone, ordering what sounded like half a restaurant's menu in that same calm, authoritative tone. When he finished, he made another call. Station 2 men outside the suite. No one enters without my authorization. A pause. I don't care if the building's on fire. No one. He ended the call and turned back to find Vera still standing frozen in the middle of the room. You're really not going to let me leave, she said quietly. Not tonight. What about tomorrow? His expression was unreadable. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Vera grabbed the bags and stalked toward the bathroom, needing space, needing to think. She paused at the hallway entrance and looked back. The Mafia boss had moved to the windows, silhouetted against the glittering city, phone to his ear again. His voice dropped lower, but she could still make out the words. *C. Il magazzino. Voglio sapere tutto quello che c'è entro domattina, *, a pause. Non mi importa cosa devi fare. Fio parler, *. Vera didn't speak Italian, but she recognized the tone. The cold finality of it. Make him talk. She backed into the bathroom and closed the door, leaning against it as her hands started shaking again. The bathroom was marble and chrome, larger than her bedroom. A soaking tub, a shower with multiple heads, heated floors that warmed her frozen feet. The bags contained exactly what she needed: jeans, soft sweater, undergarments still in packaging, even toiletries. He'd thought of everything. Vera caught sight of herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Wild-eyed. Terrified. Trapped in a nightmare that smelled like expensive cologne and gunpowder. She turned on the shower as hot as it would go and climbed in fully clothed, letting the water soak through her ruined outfit as she finally let herself cry. When she emerged 20 minutes later, clean and dressed in clothes that fit perfectly, the Mafia boss was on the phone again. He glanced at her, nodded once in approval, then turned back to the window. Food had arrived, spread across the dining table and covered dishes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Eat, he said without turning around. You'll need your strength. Vera wanted to refuse. Wanted to maintain some dignity, some control. But she was starving, and the food smelled incredible, and what did pride matter when you were already a prisoner? She sat and began eating, barely tasting anything, her mind racing. The Mafia boss finished his call and joined her, taking the seat across the table. He didn't eat, just watched her with those ice green eyes that saw too much. Why did you ask about my father? Vera finally said. Because he's the reason you're here. He's been gone for 8 years. I know. Then why? The Mafia boss's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression hardening. When he spoke, his voice was cold enough to freeze blood. Bene. Tieni lo lì. Arrivo domani, *. He ended the call, set down the phone, and looked at Vera with an intensity that made her breath catch. Then he made another call, this one on a different phone, one he pulled from an inside pocket. It's me, he said, his voice quiet but carrying an edge she hadn't heard before. I found her. Silence. Vera's fork clattered against her plate. The Mafia boss's eyes never left her face. Yes. Quinn's daughter. Another pause. I'm certain. He listened to whatever the person on the other end was saying, his expression unreadable. Understood. I'll bring her tomorrow. He hung up. Vera's voice came out as a whisper. What did you mean, you found me? The Mafia boss stood, moving to the window again, his back to her. Get some rest, Vera. Tomorrow, you're going to learn exactly what your father took from us. Us? He didn't answer. And Vera realized with creeping horror that getting into the wrong car might have been exactly what someone wanted her to do. Vera didn't sleep. How could she, in a strange bed in a stranger's penthouse, knowing armed men stood outside the door? Every time she closed her eyes, she saw muzzle flashes. Heard breaking glass. Felt the Mafia boss's hand shoving her down as bullets tore through the air where her head had been. I found her, *. The words circled her mind like vultures. She lay in the dark guest room, staring at the ceiling, and tried to remember her father's face. It had been so long. 8 years since he'd kissed her forehead and promised to be back by morning. 8 years since she'd sat at the kitchen table, 15 years old and stupid enough to believe him. He'd never come back. Her mother had cried for 3 days straight, then packed up his things and never spoke his name again. They'd moved twice, changed their phone number, started over. As if they could erase him by pretending he'd never existed. But you couldn't erase a ghost. Dawn crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows, turning Manhattan from black to gray to gold. Vera gave up on sleep and ventured out of the bedroom. The Mafia boss sat at the dining table, showered and dressed in a fresh suit, charcoal this time, with a black shirt that made his eyes look even colder. A laptop was open in front of him, and he was reading something with the focused intensity of a predator studying prey. He looked up as she approached. "Coffee? I can get my own." "I'm sure you can." He stood anyway, moving to the kitchen with that fluid grace that suggested violence barely leashed. He poured from a French press into a white cup, added nothing, and set it in front of the chair across from him. Vera took it because she needed the caffeine more than she needed to make a point. The coffee was perfect. Of course it was. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "No. Neither did I." He closed the laptop and folded his hands on the table. "We need to talk about your father." Vera's fingers tightened on the cup. "I already told you. He left 8 years ago. I don't know where he went or why." "You were 15. How do you?" She stopped. "Right. He knew everything." "Yes. I was 15. What did he tell you before he left?" "That he'd be back by morning." The old bitterness crept into her voice. "That he loved me. That everything would be okay." She met his eyes. He lied about all of it. The Mafia boss studied her for a long moment, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. He slid it across the table. "Is this him?" Vera's breath caught. The photo was old, the color slightly faded. 5 men stood in front of a warehouse, all of them in expensive suits, all of them wearing the kind of confidence that came from knowing you were untouchable. And there, second from the left, was her father. Younger. Smiling. Arm draped around the shoulder of the man next to him like they were brothers. "Where did you get this?" Her voice came out hoarse. "From my family's archives." The Mafia boss tapped the man her father was embracing. "Do you know who this is?" Vera shook her head. "Victor Constantine. My uncle." He paused. "They were partners. Best friends since childhood. Your father wasn't just connected to my family, Vera. He was part of it." The room tilted. "No." She pushed the photo back across the table. "My father worked in insurance. He had an office job. He wore ties and complained about traffic and he laundered money for the Constantine family for 12 years. The Mafia boss's voice was matter-of-fact, delivering the truth like a surgeon delivering bad news. He was good at it. Brilliant, actually. No one could trace the transactions. He made us invisible. Us, asterisk. Vera stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You're lying." "I'm not." "He wouldn't, my father wouldn't have been involved in, she couldn't even say it. Mafia. Crime. Violence." The Mafia boss stood as well, moving around the table with slow deliberation. "You said he left when you were 15. Do you remember what month?" "March." The date was burned into her memory. March 17th. 2 days after $5 million disappeared from one of our accounts. He was closer now, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in those ice-green eyes. Along with ledgers containing every transaction we'd made for 5 years. Names. Dates. Amounts. Everything. Vera backed up until she hit the window. He didn't. He did. The Mafia boss's voice dropped. He took enough to destroy us and vanished. We've been looking for him ever since. Her legs felt weak. She slid down the window until she was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. The Mafia boss crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her level. Did he ever send you anything? A package? A letter? A safety deposit box key? No. Did he have a storage unit? A friend who might have been holding something for him? No. The word came out sharp. He left, okay? He just left and never looked back. We had nothing. My mom had to take 3 jobs. We lost our house. I had to drop out of college because we couldn't afford it. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. If he had $5 million, he sure as hell didn't share it with us. Something shifted in the Mafia boss's expression. Not pity, something harder. Recognition. My uncle died looking for him, he said quietly. Spent 8 years chasing ghosts, trying to recover what was stolen. It consumed him. By the end, he'd lost everything trying to get back what your father took. He straightened, moving to the window to stare out at the city. He had a heart attack 3 months ago. His last words were your father's name. Vera's chest tightened. I'm sorry about your uncle. But I don't have what you're looking for. I don't have anything. Maybe not consciously. The Mafia boss turned back to her. But your father was smart. He wouldn't have left without insurance. And he wouldn't have trusted anyone else with it. You think he left it with me? She laughed, the sound bitter. I was 15. I didn't even know what he really did. Exactly. The perfect hiding place. The Mafia boss crossed his arms. Think, Vera. Anything unusual before he left? Gifts. Questions. Changes in routine. She wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him he was wrong. But a memory surfaced, unbidden. Her father in her bedroom doorway a week before he vanished, watching her do homework. Asterisk, you're smart, Moya Tashka. Smarter than me. Whatever happens, remember that, asterisk. She'd laughed it off. He'd always called her that, my little bird. Always said she was smart. But now... What? The Mafia boss's eyes sharpened. You remembered something. It's nothing. Tell me. He called me his little bird. Her voice was barely a whisper. The week before he left, he kept saying it. Over and over. Like he was trying to make me remember. The Mafia boss went very still. Asterisk Tashka, asterisk. Yes. How did you? He was already moving, pulling out his phone, typing rapidly. Your father had a sister in Ukraine. She died when you were born. He named you after her. Vera, she said numbly. It means faith. And Tashka. The Mafia boss looked up, something almost like respect in his eyes. There's a cafe in Brighton Beach. Your father went there every Sunday. His jaw tightened. It's called the Little Bird. Vera's blood turned cold. The Mafia boss made a call, speaking rapid Russian now, his voice sharp with command. When he hung up, he looked at her with an intensity that made her want to disappear. "We're going to Brighton Beach," he said. "And you're going to help me find what your father hid. What if there's nothing there? Then we keep looking. And what if I refuse?" His expression hardened. "You won't." "Why not?" "Because someone else figured out the same thing I just did." The Mafia boss moved to the window, his profile sharp against the morning light. "And they're already on their way to that cafe." Vera stood on shaking legs. "How do you know?" "Because my men just reported that someone burned down your apartment building an hour ago." His eyes met hers, cold and certain. "They're erasing your past, Vera. Which means they think you have what they want." He turned away, already making another call, already planning their next move. And Vera realized with creeping horror that the wrong car might have been the only thing that kept her alive. They didn't go to Brighton Beach. "Too exposed," the Mafia boss said after another rapid-fire phone call in Russian. "They'll be watching the cafe. We wait until my men secure it." "How long?" "As long as it takes." Which was how Vera found herself trapped in the penthouse suite with a man who terrified her and somehow made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. The contradiction was maddening. She paced the living room while he worked at the dining table, laptop open, phone constantly buzzing with updates. Every so often he'd look up, track her movement across the room with those ice-green eyes, then return to whatever he was reading. "You're going to wear a path in the floor," he said without looking up. "Then let me leave." "No." Vera stopped in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Manhattan stretched out below, glittering in the late morning sun. From up here, it looked beautiful. Clean. Like the violence and chaos couldn't touch this rarefied air. Her apartment was gone. Burned. Everything she owned, what little she had, was ash now. "Did anyone die?" Her voice came out small. "In the fire?" The Mafia boss closed his laptop. "No. The building was evacuated in time." A pause. "They wanted to send a message, not kill bystanders." "What message?" "That they're willing to burn down your life to find what they want." Vera pressed her forehead against the cool glass. "I don't even know what that is." "We will." The certainty in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a caged door closing. She turned to survey the suite again, really looking at it for the first time. The leather furniture that probably cost more than a car. The abstract art on the walls, originals, not prints. The kitchen with appliances she'd only seen in magazines. The guest room where she'd spent a sleepless night had a bed bigger than her entire studio. This was his world. Money and power and the kind of security that came from being feared. Her world had been scraped together rent and discount groceries and wondering if she'd have enough for the subway. "What are you thinking?" The Mafia boss's voice cut through her thoughts. "That we're from different planets. We're both from Brooklyn." She almost laughed. "Not the same Brooklyn." He stood, moving to the bar cart to pour water into 2 glasses. He brought one to her, and she took it automatically. "You grew up in Midwood," he said. "Small house with a green door. Your mother planted roses every spring." He took a sip of his own water. "I grew up 3 miles away in Brighton Beach. My father ran protection rackets out of a fish market." His eyes met hers. Same planet. Different survival strategies. Vera's fingers tightened on the glass. "You've been watching me." I've been looking for your father. You were always part of that equation. How long? Since you were 18. 7 years. He'd been watching her for 7 years. The room felt smaller suddenly. Did you? She couldn't finish the question. Interfere? He moved back to the table, leaning against it with casual grace. No. You were never in danger before. You were just a loose thread. Now you're the whole tapestry unraveling. Thanks. That's comforting. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. You have fire. Your father had that too. Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't compare me to him. Why not? Because he abandoned me. He chose whatever he stole over his own daughter. Her voice cracked. I am nothing like him. The Mafia boss studied her for a long moment. No, he said finally. You're not. He ran. You're still here, fighting. It wasn't a compliment, exactly. But it wasn't an insult either. Vera set down her glass and moved to the bookshelf, needing to look at anything but him. Leather-bound volumes in Russian, Italian, English. Philosophy. History. Poetry. She pulled out a worn copy of Dostoevsky, surprised by the cracked spine and marginalia in the margins. You read? She regretted the question immediately. It sounded condescending. I do a lot of things. He'd moved closer without her noticing, close enough that she could smell that gunmetal cologne. You thought I just shot people and collected debts? I don't know what you do. She replaced the book. You won't tell me anything. I've told you more than I've told anyone in years. She turned to find him studying her with an expression she couldn't read. Not quite curiosity. Not quite interest. Something more complicated. Why? She asked. Why what? Why tell me anything? Why not just lock me up and tear my life apart looking for whatever my father hid? His jaw tightened. Because you remind me that not everyone in this world is playing the same game. He moved to the window, putting distance between them. And because my uncle would have wanted me to be sure before I destroyed what's left of your father's family. The admission surprised her. They stood in silence, the space between them charged with things neither of them wanted to say. Vera noticed dried blood on her palm, a shallow cut from the glass the night before. She'd forgotten about it in the chaos. The Mafia boss saw it at the same moment. His expression shifted, something flickering behind those cold eyes. Let me see. It's fine. Let me see. Not a request. Vera held out her hand, and he took it carefully, his fingers warm against her cold skin. He examined the cut with the same focused intensity he brought to everything else, then disappeared into the bathroom. He returned with a first aid kit and proceeded to clean the wound with efficient, practiced movements. You've done this before, Vera said. Many times. For yourself or others? Both. He applied antibiotic ointment, his touch surprisingly gentle. My mother was a nurse before she married my father. She taught me. Is she dead? 10 years now. He wrapped gauze around her palm, securing it with tape. Cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was tired of this life anyway. He released her hand but didn't step back. Your mother? Still in Midwood? Arizona. Remarried. We don't talk much. Vera flexed her bandaged hand. She wanted to forget my father ever existed. I was a reminder. Something passed between them, recognition of shared wounds, shared loneliness. The Mafia boss's phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered, listened, his expression darkening with every second. When he spoke, his voice was ice. Asterisk skolko, asterisk, a pause. Asterisk net. Nikto yeani trogeet, asterisk. He ended the call and immediately made another, this time to someone who answered on the first ring. Station 6 men on this floor. 2 outside the elevator. For roaming. His eyes found Vera's. If anyone touches her, they answer to me. Personally. The emphasis on the last word made Vera's skin prickle. He hung up and moved to the window, staring out at the city with tension radiating from his shoulders. What happened? Vera asked. The Volkov family knows you're with me. He didn't turn around. They're offering a bounty for anyone who brings you to them alive. Her stomach dropped. How much? Enough that some of my own men might consider it. Then let me go. If I'm not with you, they'll kill you within an hour. He finally looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Doubt. Conflict. They think you're mine now. Whether you are or not doesn't matter. Perception is reality in this world. So what do? We make it real. He crossed back to the table, pulling up something on his laptop. I'm putting out word that you're under my personal protection. That anyone who harms you will face the full weight of the Constantine family. Won't that make me more of a target? It'll make you more expensive to touch. His fingers flew over the keyboard. The Volkovs will have to think twice before moving against you. It buys us time. Time to find what my father hid. Yes. Vera sank onto the couch, the weight of it all pressing down on her chest. This is insane. This is survival. The Mafia boss closed the laptop and came to sit across from her, elbows on his knees, his gaze intense. I won't let them hurt you, Vera. But you have to trust me. Trust you? You kidnapped me. I saved you. You're holding me prisoner. I'm keeping you alive. His voice dropped, something raw creeping into it. There's a difference. And God help her, she was starting to see it. The Mafia boss who'd shoved her down as bullets flew. Who'd bandaged her hand with careful fingers. Who'd spent 7 years watching her from a distance but never interfering until she'd stumbled into his world and forced his hand. He wasn't a hero. But maybe he wasn't entirely a monster either. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and his expression went cold. They're moving faster than I expected, he said, standing. We need to go. Now. Go where? Somewhere they won't think to look. He was already gathering his things, his movements sharp and efficient. Stay close to me. Don't speak to anyone. And whatever happens, his eyes locked onto hers. Don't let go of my hand. Vera stood on trembling legs, her heart hammering. You're scaring me. Good. The Mafia boss held out his hand, steady and certain. Fear will keep you sharp. She stared at his outstretched palm, at the choice it represented. Then she took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and unbreakable. And she realized with a chill that she didn't know if she was being protected or possessed. Maybe there wasn't a difference anymore. The safe house was a brownstone in Carroll Gardens, tucked between an Italian bakery and a flower shop that looked like it hadn't changed since 1952. Quaint. Unassuming. The kind of place you'd walk past without a second glance. Perfect camouflage. Inside, It was all reinforced doors and surveillance cameras hidden in crown molding. The Mafia boss had 3 men stationed on the ground floor, 2 more watching the street from windows with a clear sight line in every direction. "You'll stay here until we can move you somewhere more permanent," he said, leading her up narrow stairs to a second-floor bedroom. "Don't go near the windows. Don't open the door for anyone but me." Vera looked around the small room, clean but sparse, with a single bed and a dresser that had seen better decades. It felt like a cell trying to pass as a bedroom. "How long?" she asked. "As long as it takes." He checked his phone, frowning at whatever message appeared. "I have a meeting. I'll be back in 2 hours." "What kind of meeting?" His eyes cut to her. "The kind you don't ask about." "Right. Because I'm just supposed to sit here and wait like a good little." "Vera." Her name came out sharp. "This isn't a negotiation. You stay here. You stay safe. That's all that matters." He left before she could argue, his footsteps heavy on the stairs. She heard him giving orders to his men in Russian, then the front door closing. Silence settled over the house like dust. Vera paced the small room, counting steps. 12 from the door to the window. 8 from the bed to the dresser. A cage didn't need bars when it had armed guards. She tried to think rationally. The Mafia boss was protecting her. He'd made that clear. But protection that looked like imprisonment wasn't protection, it was control. And Vera had spent too many years being invisible, powerless, forgotten. She wasn't going to be a prisoner again. The decision crystallized with surprising clarity. She'd find the police. Tell them everything. Let them handle the Mafia families and the missing money and whatever her father had stolen. It wasn't her burden to carry. Through the window, she could see a fire escape on the building next door. Too far to jump. But the service stairwell she'd passed on the way up, that led to a back exit. She'd seen it. The men were watching the front. No one was watching the back. Vera waited 20 minutes, giving the Mafia boss time to get clear of the neighborhood. Then she eased open her bedroom door. The hallway was empty, the house quiet except for muffled voices from downstairs. Russian. Laughing about something. She moved toward the service stairwell on silent feet, her heart hammering so hard she was sure they'd hear it. The door was unlocked. Why would they lock it? No one was stupid enough to try to escape. Except her, apparently. The stairwell was concrete and cold, bare bulbs casting harsh shadows. Vera descended quickly, not letting herself think, not letting herself feel the fear clawing at her throat. 1 flight. 2. She'd almost reached the ground level when she heard the door above her open. *GDE Ona, a man's voice, sharp with alarm. They'd noticed. Vera ran. She hit the ground floor exit, bursting into an alley that smelled like garbage and old snow. Left or right? She chose right, running toward the street, toward people, toward safety. Arms grabbed her from behind. Not the Mafia boss's men. These hands were rougher, unfamiliar. A cloth pressed over her mouth, chemical sweet and suffocating. Vera tried to scream, but the sound came out muffled. She kicked backward, connected with someone's shin, heard a curse in accented English. Grab her legs. Quickly. More hands. She was being carried now, back toward a black van idling at the alley's entrance. The world tilted, her vision swimming from whatever they'd made her breathe. No. No, 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 *. Gunfire cracked through the air. The men carrying her dropped her, scattering. Vera hit the pavement hard, her head spinning, lungs burning as she gasped for clean air. More shots. Shouting. The van's engine roaring to life. Then hands on her again, but these she recognized. The Mafia boss hauled her up, his face a mask of fury she'd never seen before, all that cold control shattered into something raw and terrifying. Get inside, he roared at his men, already dragging Vera back toward the brownstone. She stumbled, her legs weak, and he simply lifted her, carrying her like she weighed nothing. His heart hammered against her cheek, his breathing harsh and ragged. They were inside. He set her on a couch, his hands immediately checking her over. Pulse, pupils, breathing. His touch was gentle but his expression was murder. What did they give you? His voice was deadly quiet. I don't, cloth, something sweet. He cursed in Russian, pulling out his phone. Privatite doctora. Sekas, *. One of his men appeared with water. The Mafia boss held the glass to her lips. Drink. Slow sips. Vera drank, her hands shaking too hard to hold the glass herself. The chemical taste was fading, but her head still felt stuffed with cotton. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry? His voice cracked like a whip. You could have been. He stopped, jaw clenching so hard she could see the muscle jump. Do you have any idea what they would have done to you? I just wanted freedom. Independence. He stood abruptly, pacing like a caged animal. You nearly got yourself killed for it. Was it worth it, Vera? Tears burned her eyes. I can't just sit here and... Yes. You can. He turned on her, and she saw it then. Beneath the fury, beneath the control, fear. Real, viscous fear. You will stay where I put you. You will do what I say. Because if you don't, his voice broke. If they take you, I can't. He stopped himself, turning away, hands fisted at his sides. The doctor arrived, a small woman with gray hair who examined Vera with practiced efficiency. Chloroform, she confirmed. Low dose. Vera would be fine in a few hours. The Mafia boss stood at the window, his back rigid, while the doctor worked. When she left, he made a call. Full lockdown. No one in or out without my personal authorization. A pause. I don't care what it costs. Double the guards. Triple them. His voice dropped to something dangerous. If anyone gets within 50 feet of her, I want to know their blood type and their mother's maiden name. He ended the call and finally looked at Vera. You're not leaving my sight again, he said quietly. Not until this is over. You can't just. I can. And I will. He moved closer, crouching in front of her so they were eye level. Those men were Volkovs. Do you know what they do to women they capture? Vera shook her head. Good. Because I'm going to make sure you never find out. His eyes were chips of ice, but his hand when it touched her cheek was gentle. I told you I wouldn't let them hurt you. That means you don't get to make decisions that put you in danger. Not anymore. I'm not your property. No. Something shifted in his expression. Softer, almost sad. You're something much more complicated than that. He stood, already pulling out his phone to make more calls, to reinforce the cage around her with more locks and more guards. And Vera realized with creeping certainty that leaving him wasn't an option anymore. Not because he wouldn't let her. Because the moment she stepped out of his shadow, she'd die. The Mafia boss had become the only thing standing between her and a bullet. And he knew it. The way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he looked at her, like she was something precious and fragile he'd been tasked with protecting at any cost. Even if it meant losing pieces of himself in the process. "Why?" she asked quietly. He paused mid-dial, looking back at her. "Why what? Why does it matter so much? I'm just a loose thread. You said so yourself." For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he pocketed his phone and came to sit beside her, close but not touching. "My uncle spent 8 years looking for your father," he said quietly. "It destroyed him. Every lead that went nowhere, every false hope, it ate him alive." He stared at his hands. "I watched him waste away chasing ghosts. And I swore when he died that I'd finish what he started." His eyes met hers. "But I didn't expect you." "What does that mean?" "It means you're not a loose thread anymore, Vera." His voice was rough. "And I'm not letting anyone cut you." He stood before she could respond, already moving toward the door, toward more calls and more arrangements and more ways to keep her safe whether she wanted it or not. Vera touched the bandage on her palm, the one he'd applied with careful fingers that could also pull a trigger without hesitation. And she understood something terrifying. The Mafia boss wasn't her captor. He was her keeper. And she was starting to depend on the cage. The Mafia boss didn't leave her side for 3 days. He worked from the brownstone, laptop always open, phone constantly buzzing. But his eyes tracked her movement across every room, hyper-aware of where she was at all times. When she slept, he sat in a chair by her door. When she ate, he sat across from her. When she tried to argue, he simply looked at her with those ice-green eyes and waited for her to understand. She was alive because he'd decided she would be. The control should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the only solid thing in a world that had collapsed around her. On the 4th day, snow fell heavy and silent over Brooklyn. The Mafia boss stood at the window, watching flakes drift past the reinforced glass, his shoulders tense with thoughts he wouldn't share. Vera had been reading, or pretending to, but she set down the book and studied him. Really studied him. The sharp line of his jaw. The way his dark hair fell across his forehead when he forgot to push it back. The carefully controlled violence in every movement, like a blade kept sheathed out of courtesy, not inability. "Tell me about my father," she said. His shoulders stiffened. "I've told you." "No. You've told me what he stole. What he did to your family." She stood, moving closer. "I want to know what he was before that. Who he was to you." The Mafia boss's reflection in the window showed conflict warring across his features. Then he turned to face her, and something in his expression had shifted, guard lowered, just slightly. "He saved my life when I was 17. Vera blinked. Of all the things she'd expected, that wasn't it. The Mafia boss moved to the small sitting area, gesturing for her to follow. They sat, not across from each other this time, but on the same couch, the space between them charged with electricity neither acknowledged. "I was reckless," he continued, staring at his hands. "Thought I was invincible because my last name was Constantine. Got into a fight with the wrong people in the wrong part of town." His jaw tightened. "They would have killed me. Your father found me bleeding in an alley behind his office building." "He helped you?" "He called my uncle. Stayed with me until Victor arrived. Talked to me the whole time, kept me conscious." The ghost of something, gratitude, affection, flickered across his face. "After that, Victor brought him deeper into the family. Trusted him completely. And you? I worshipped him. The admission came out rough. My own father died when I was 8. Victor raised me, but he was hard. Cold. Your father, Alexei, he was different. He'd ask about school. Remember my birthday? Actually listen when I talked. His eyes met hers. He felt like what I imagined having a father should feel like. Vera's chest tightened. How old was I when this happened? 7, maybe 8. He talked about you constantly. My Tashka, he'd say. Always worried he wasn't around enough, that the business kept him away too much. The Mafia boss's voice dropped. He loved you, Vera. That was never a lie. Then why did he leave? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 8 years. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, tension radiating from his frame. The deal that went wrong, it wasn't supposed to involve him. It was between Victor and the Volkov family. A joint venture moving art through Eastern European channels. Art? Vera frowned. I thought you said it was money he stole. The money was a byproduct. But it was the ledgers that mattered, proof of every transaction, every name involved. Museums, collectors, politicians who looked the other way. His hands clenched. If those ledgers went public, both families would have been destroyed. Everyone from Brooklyn to Moscow would have wanted us dead. Understanding dawned cold and terrible. He wasn't just stealing. He was buying his freedom. We think so. But from what? The Mafia boss turned to face her fully. That's what never made sense. Alexei was happy. Successful. He had everything, family, money, respect. Why risk it all? Maybe he wanted out, Vera said quietly. Maybe he was tired of the violence. Then he would have asked. Victor would have let him walk away. Frustration bled into his voice. But he didn't ask. He just vanished, taking enough leverage to guarantee we couldn't come after him without destroying ourselves. Unless you found him first. Yes. The word came out flat. Victor spent 8 years trying. It consumed him. Every resource, every contact, every waking moment dedicated to finding the man he'd called brother. His voice cracked. It killed him, Vera. The obsession, the betrayal, it ate through him like acid. By the end, he barely recognized me. Guilt. That's what she heard beneath the anger. Deep, corrosive guilt. You blame yourself, she said softly. I should have stopped him. Should have made him let it go. The Mafia boss's hands fisted. But I wanted answers too. Needed to understand why Alexei would do that to us. To me. You loved him. Like a father. The admission seemed to cost him. And he left without a word. Without even, he stopped, jaw clenching. Vera understood then. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was personal. Intimate. The kind of wound that never fully healed. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. It's not your fault. Isn't it? She laughed, bitter. I'm his daughter. I'm the reason you're trapped in this. The reason your uncle died chasing ghosts. No. The Mafia boss reached out, his hand covering hers. The touch was warm, solid. You're the only innocent person in this entire mess. His thumb traced small circles on her palm, and Vera's breath caught. They were too close suddenly, the space between them crackling with something dangerous. And God help her, she did. This pull between them that had been building since that first night in his car. Terror and attraction wound so tight she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. "What happens now?" she asked. "That depends on you." His other hand came up to frame her face, holding her like she was something precious that might shatter. "We can keep looking for what your father hid. Try to make sense of the mess he left behind. Or we disappear. Leave all of it behind, the families, the violence, the endless cycle of revenge and duty." His forehead touched hers, and she felt him trembling. "I have enough money hidden away. We could go anywhere. Be anyone. You'd give up everything for me? Your family? Your name?" "I already did." His voice was rough. "The moment I refused the counsel, I stopped being Damien Constantine, heir to the family. I'm just Damien now. A man with too much blood on his hands and a girl he has no right to want." Tears burned Vera's eyes. "I don't even know who I am anymore. You're Vera Quinn. Daughter of a thief. Survivor of a broken home. The woman who got into the wrong car and changed everything." His lips brushed her temple. "And you're mine. If you want to be." The words should have felt like possession. Like another cage. Instead, they felt like permission to finally stop running from the only person who'd ever truly seen her. Vera's hands came up to grip his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had tilted sideways. "I'm scared." "Good. So am I." His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. "We'll be scared together." They stood like that as dawn fully broke over Brooklyn, two people who'd lost everything finding something unexpected in the ruins. Finally, Vera pulled back enough to look at him. "My father. Do you still need to find him?" "The Mafia boss, no, just Damien now." Considered the question carefully. "I need to know why he did it. Not for revenge anymore. Just closure. And if we find him? Then you get to decide what happens next." His hand smoothed her hair back from her face. "He's your father. Whatever he did, that's still true. And us?" The question felt impossibly fragile. "What are we?" "I don't know." His smile was slight, almost shy, an expression she'd never seen before. "But I'd like to find out. If you'll let me." Vera thought about the girl who'd gotten into that wrong car on Christmas Eve. Desperate. Invisible. Convinced she'd spend her whole life alone. That girl was gone now, burned away in gunfire and snow and a man's unexpected devotion. In her place stood someone new. Someone brave enough to choose the dangerous path instead of the safe one. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay? Okay, let's find out." She rose on her toes, her lips brushing his. "But if you ever lock me in another room." He kissed her before she could finish the threat, his mouth claiming hers with a hunger that had been building for days. She melted into him, all the fear and tension transforming into something else entirely: need, want, the desperate relief of two people who'd been fighting gravity finally giving in. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien rested his forehead against hers. "We should leave soon," he murmured. "Volkov won't give up. Neither will the families I just alienated." "Where will we go?" "Somewhere warm. Somewhere they won't think to look." His arms tightened around her. "And when the dust settles, we'll come back. Find out what your father was really running from." "You think it's more than just the money?" "I know it is." His eyes met hers, serious now. "Men like Alexei don't disappear for money. They disappear because they're terrified of something worse. A chill ran down Vera's spine. What could be worse than the Mafia? I don't know yet. Damien pulled her close again, his lips against her hair. But we're going to find out. Together. Outside, snow continued to fall over Brooklyn, covering the blood and violence with pristine white. And in the quiet apartment overlooking the water, two people who'd been shaped by betrayal and loss began to imagine what redemption might look like. Vera woke hours later to find Damien at the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, urgent Russian. She watched him from the bed. This man who'd torn apart his entire world for her, who killed without hesitation but touched her like she might break. He was a contradiction she'd spend years unraveling. And terrifyingly, she wanted every minute of it. He ended the call and turned, catching her watching. We have a problem. What kind? The Brighton Beach Cafe. Someone ransacked it last night. Tore the place apart looking for something. Vera sat up, pulling the blanket around her. Did they find it? No. Which means whatever your father hid is still there. Somewhere they couldn't find. His jaw tightened. But they'll be back. And next time, they'll burn it down. Then we go now. It's too dangerous. Everything is dangerous. She stood, moving to him. But sitting here waiting won't change that. If my father left me something, some message or explanation, I need to know what it was. Damien studied her face, and she saw the moment he made the decision. All right. But we do it my way. My men. My rules. Your protection. Always. He pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that promised things neither of them was ready to say out loud. When they broke apart, Vera smiled against his mouth. For someone who kidnapped me, you're getting very soft. Don't mistake care for softness. His voice was velvet over steel. I'm still the man who shot his cousin in front of the council. I know. And somehow, that didn't scare her anymore. That's the man I'm choosing. His eyes darkened with something that looked like hope mixed with hunger. And as they prepared to face whatever came next, Vera understood that getting into the wrong car on Christmas Eve hadn't been a mistake. It had been fate finally paying attention.